Hey guys, I'm Urizi. This story is all about what if Naruto is the reincarnation of Hashirama and can remember his past life. The Yondaime Hokage unknowingly makes a change during the sealing, the consequences of which are unimaginable for both Naruto and Konoha. What do these consequences mean for Naruto? Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video, and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 10. That Rinnegan wielder, he is a very serious threat, Rasengan. You said a former student of yours had awakened those eyes, but my opponent did not look like him. Jiraiya looked very interested. If I didn't have to deal with Kisame, and then extract Sasuke and Sakura, I would have loved to have a look at your opponent. Can you henge into him? Mokuton, henge. Standing before the Toad Sage was an Akatsuki-cloaked man, with orange spiky hair. The legendary Rinnegan eyes blazed, giving off a sense of unfathomable power. Jiraiya gasped. Yahiko? You fought Yahiko? Naruto transformed back into his original body. No. I sensed that the one I fought was being controlled via chakra transmission. I know he was the embodiment of Tendu, the divine path of the Rinnegan. Jiraiya looked confused. If you are right, then Yahiko is dead. No one else has the chakra to transplant those eyes onto themselves, it has to be a descendant of the Rikoda Sennin. So Nagato is the one behind all this, and is still alive. And what did you mean by paths? Nagato. So that is his name. Ah, yes. The much is known about the Sage of the Six Paths, or about those eyes. I know that it has 6 paths: Deva, Asura, Preta, Naraka, Animal, and Human. There is much more to those eyes, but this is all I know about it for sure. The rest of what I know is the usual legend about the sage. I believe I faced the Deva path today. His jutsu was Shinra Tensei, after all. He was an extremely formidable opponent, and I think if he comes at me with all 6 paths unified in his true body, I will have to fight quite seriously. Then we need more information. If someone using Nagato's eyes, or Nagato himself has resurfaced, it is indeed a serious threat. Akatsuki is becoming very strong, and I think they will continue to quietly gather strength before making a bid for the Baijiryu. Especially after you forced a stalemate with Pain, concluded Jiraiya with concern. I can match Pain, Rasengan. But Sasuke has awakened the Mangekyo thanks to Itachi, and Itachi himself is doing all he can to obtain more power. Konoha will be in safe hands even without me. Jiraiya nodded, and the two sat quietly for a while. It's time to go, Rasengan. Sasuke and Sakura are safe in Konoha, and we will do what needs to be done to get Tsunade back. I should never have brought Sasuke along, but I suppose it all worked out. Naruto stopped his ponderings of yesterday's conversation and stared at the town they had just reached. Tanzaku Town, the place where Tsunade was sighted last. They were here, finally. Naruto held up a half-ram seal, immersing himself in his sensory perception of chakra. His senses extended for a mile in every direction, searching, questing. There. A large chakra, too familiar. It may or may not be Tsunade, but it certainly felt like the chakra of the Senju clan. Found her, Rasengan. Or at least female members of the Senju clan. I have a lock on her location, and I can lead us there directly. Jiraiya nodded, and the three of them followed Naruto through the town. Naruto had healed Sasuke and Sakura, the two having sustained only minor damage. Sasuke's chakra exhaustion was dealt with easily enough, and the Uchiha had become as quiet as the grave since the altercation with his brother. Kakashi and Guy had taken his teammates back to Konoha. As much as he hated to admit it, Sakura was a liability as of now. Kakashi had been furious with her. But she was yet to recover completely, and Sasuke had wanted to go back. Naruto thought of Itachi, and his plans for Sasuke. He really wanted to tell Sasuke everything, but he respected Itachi too much to interfere in Uchiha affairs. Instead he told Sasuke of Itachi's deception with Sakura to get him to develop Mangekyo Sharingan. He could certainly point Sasuke towards the answers. It wasn't his place to brainwash Sasuke about the village's importance. It was a decision each shinobi had to make for himself. Sasuke had caught on then, becoming introspective and silent. He was actually putting the facts together, and was asking himself why Itachi did what he had. Naruto hoped that the answer he found would not cause him to lose himself. Sasuke had shown no intention of wanting to continue with the mission, instead wanting to go back to the village. He claimed he had to read something he couldn't before. Naruto understood. I will try my best to reunite Sasuke with you, Itachi. It is my promise as a shinobi. I only hope he won't lose himself to the darkness when he learns what happened to you. They paused in front of a bar in a busy street. Naruto looked at Jiraiya. This is the place, Rasengan. Shall we go? Jiraiya nodded, looking anxious and happy at the same time. He pushed open the doors and Jiraiya followed, and he set course towards Tsunade's chakra. His sensing led him to an occupied table with a pig crawling upon it. He lifted his head and gazed upon his granddaughter, his grown-up granddaughter. When had the little girl become so beautiful? Her blonde hair was now long and in pigtails, just like when she was little. Her body was perfect, with rather large assets. Naruto took his mind and eyes off there. She was his granddaughter, for God's sake. He calmed himself and kept staring at her face, affection in his eyes. Family. This time, his direct descendant. He couldn't wait to tease the hell out of her. Tsunade stopped her steady consumption of sake, and stared back at him. A short-haired brunette woman considerably younger than Tsunade reached for the peacefully grunting pig on the table. What are you looking at, Gaki? Naruto felt really out of his depth. Tsunade used to be a little girl whom he taught gambling, not this grown woman who consumed sake. He felt a temptation to wrest the sake bottle from her hands and scold her till she cried. Jiraiya appeared behind Naruto, noting his discomfort. Naruto looked like a startled deer as he stared at Tsunade with a conflicted face. Jiraiya! Shouted Tsunade, her attention off the kid. Hello, Tsunade. Looking as beautiful as ever. Said Jiraiya attempting to sound debonair. What are you doing here, pervert? It seems too much of a coincidence for two teammates to visit me at once. You mean Orochimaru? What did he say? Asked Jiraiya, drawing up a chair to sit opposite Tsunade. Naruto did the same, still trying to collect himself. Tsunade looked nonchalant. Nothing, just stopped by to say hello. You know, we haven't seen each other in so long. That's more than I can say for you, you pervert. Jiraiya opened his mouth, but Naruto beat him to it. Liar. Orochimaru never just says hello to anybody. You lie, Tsunade. Didn't your parents teach you lying was a bad habit? Asked Naruto with a grin. He knew full well that her parents had taught her not to lie. He on the other hand had unintentionally taught her the opposite when he showed her gambling. Tsunade scowled, as she saw Naruto grinning. Jiraiya too smiled but dropped it when Tsunade glared at him. Who's the kid, Jiraiya? Uzumaki Naruto. Don't bother denying the lie, Tsunade. He is a very strong censor. Anyway, do you know what has been happening in Konoha? Tsunade gasped a little and looked closer at Naruto. No, I know only that Sarutobi-sensei is dead, and some rumors. You are the one they are calling the God of Shinobi, now. They say you have Mokuton of all things, and you destroyed Iwa's army with it. Rumors, they get overblown sometimes, huh? Anyway Gaki, how dare you call me, a Sunin, a liar? Well, you did lie. Thus, you are a liar. Said Naruto amusedly. Anyway Jiraiya interrupted hurriedly, seeing Tsunade's temper rising. The village wants you back, Tsunade. It is time for you to return, you are being recalled officially. Tsunade stared at him, and laughed. I will never go back to that village after all I suffered there, Jiraiya. You know that. Is the village in need of my healing now? Has the medical wing grown so lax in my absence? Naruto snorted. What was wrong with her? She had allowed herself to become too jaded and presumptive. Look, Tsunade, Rasengan and I are not here for your healing. In fact, I can heal people as well as you can. No, we need you for something else. Jiraiya looked at her seriously. We need you to come back, and become the Yondaime Hokage of Konoha, Tsunade. The village is in shambles and we need a strong hand to guide us. It cannot be me, for obvious reasons. So it must be you. You are chosen. Tsunade snarled to her companion, she's unnet, I cannot believe this. Look at the gall of the pervert, asking me to become Hokage of that god-forsaken village. The position of Hokage is trash. The previous Hokage led feudal lives, finally giving up their lives for a place that never appreciated their great sacrifices. I have no intention of leading such a village, never. Naruto flared a bit of his chakra in surprise, causing the table to crack up. It seemed nothing could get through to Tsunade. Not for the first time since he set eyes upon her, he wished she had remained a little girl. Is that really what you think, Tsunade? Is that what you believe about Konoha? Tsunade didn't even look at him. Nice trick, Gaki. But I have more chakra in my pigtails than you have now. So, enough with the flaring please. Jiraiya shook his head with resignation as Naruto's face hardened slightly. Then, care to make a bet? Fight. Just the two of us. You win, I pay of all your debts. Don't worry, I have the resources. I win, you come back to Konoha and become Hokage. Tsunade looked at Naruto as if he had lost his mind. Suicidal Gaki. Alright, I'll bite. Let's take this outside. Shizune and Jiraiya sighed, the latter giving Naruto a meaningful look. Naruto nodded. Time to see how much his granddaughter had improved. Jiraiya, Shizune, and Taunton all stood to the side as Naruto faced Tsunade in the alley. Tsunade lifted up a finger. All I need to beat a kid like you is a single finger. Naruto smiled, thinking of the past. How odd to have his own words thrown back at him. Ajisen. Ka-san taught me how to kick. Prepare to lose. Declared a 5-year-old Tsunade, facing her grandfather. Ha ha ha. Tsunade-chan, I am still stronger than you in Taijutsu. I kick loads better than you. The only thing you can beat me in is gambling. Laughed Senju Hashirama. Tobirama looked at his brother and sighed. Only you could be beaten at gambling by a child, Hashirama. You were always horrible at it, but you taught your own granddaughter your bad gambling. And now you get beaten by her. Honestly. Hashirama looked indignant. Hey, I beat you last time. Right. After you sent a wood clone to ask Mito for advice. That was hardly fair. Hashirama looked sheepish. Well. Ajisen. Let's fight. Yelled an obviously irritated little Tsunade. Hashirama looked at his granddaughter, and lifted up a finger. What are you doing? Asked Tsunade cutely, tilting her head to the side. All I need to beat you is a single finger, Tsunade-chan. I'll keep it fair, then, said Naruto and lifted up his own finger. Tsunade smirked. Your funeral? Tsunade appeared in front of him, and thrust the finger towards his chest fast, but Naruto blocked it. The pressure of the collision created a small shockwave. Naruto grimaced. She was very strong. Stronger than him, physically. He jumped backwards, his broken finger glowing green with healing chakra. As his bones mended, Naruto reflected. Tsunade had found a way to harness extreme physical strength instantaneously. He himself needed to gather chakra for a few moments to enhance his strength many times over, that was the basis of the nature fist. Naturally he was strong, yes. But from what he saw of Tsunade, she had found a way to increase her chakra control to ultimate refinement. He dropped into the first stance of the nature fist, holding up only the now mended finger. Chakra began reinforcing that finger, causing Tsunade's eyes to widen. This time Naruto took the initiative, rushing at his errant granddaughter fast. Their fingers met with the force of rampaging bulls, causing the ground to crack. They disappeared from sight, clashing furiously, fighting only with their forefingers. Strength met strength as the nature fist began to unveil its power. Naruto steadily gathered chakra and his strikes became stronger and stronger. Tsunade, to his surprise, was easily able to match his strength. Impressive. The girl really did deserve to be one of the Densetsu no Sunin. Tsunade suddenly lifted her finger high and with a yell, brought it down on Naruto's head. Naruto blocked it with his own forefinger, but the strength was too much. Tsunade had put a lot into that strike. He was smashed into the ground, multiple bones broken. He lay groaning in the depression he had created with his fall. Tsunade landed in front of him. You are very strong, but not enough to match a Sunin. Too bad you lost the bet, Kaki. Naruto's body glowed green, and bones began to mend themselves automatically. Tsunade gasped, as she recognized her ultimate jutsu used by that kid like it was nothing. Naruto got up, shaking his head. If he unleashed too much chakra, he would alert the wrong people. The situation called for a more elegant solution. I must not unleash my chakra too much, but I will end this fast. Naruto closed his eyes, his shoulder-length blonde hair rippling in the wind. A silver sheen emanated from his body, as he filtered his chakra to a higher purity. Nature chakra. So pure. He whispered. The air around Naruto began to feel heavy. Naruto opened his eyes, staring at Tsunade. Only other sages can sense this chakra. Let us see how you do when I use my chakra at this purity, Tsunade. He appeared in front of Tsunade and flicked her with his finger. Tsunade caught the flick with her own finger, but was sent crashing into the ground, creating an even deeper crater. Dust rose from the site, shrouding Tsunade and Naruto. Tsunade-sama! Cried Shizune, running to Tsunade. Naruto stared down at Tsunade, who had markings appear on her forehead. He should not have damaged her this much. He supposed Tsunade would have met his chakra with her own if only she could have sensed it. She was unprepared for his enhanced strike. That chakra he had used was special. Yin seal. Release, came her weak voice. He could feel Tsunade's injuries healing up, and her chakra dropped down slightly. Naruto felt proud of his granddaughter. She had come far. Doton, Chikyu no Ieyasu, said Naruto, his palms upon the earth. The damage wrought by their fight was erased, and the ground went back to a somewhat normal state. Tsunade stared at him with wide eyes. He could feel clearly her churning surprise. You fight like a senju, Kaki. That taijutsu of yours reminds me of. Tsunade trailed off, scrutinizing Naruto with a critical eye. To be fair, this was a draw. You healed yourself after I knocked you down and I did the same. So the bet is still not resolved. We need to find a new contest, she finished. Naruto thought fast. By Tsunade's reputation, it was obvious what contest she would choose. He nodded. Time to see if his luck had changed. Let's gamble. Thank you for coming, Kushina, said Mito. She had appropriated a compound for the Uzumaki clan. No matter, Mito-sama. Setting up the Uzumaki clan again formally is a lot of work. In fact, I am glad you called me. Forget the formalities, Kushina. We are family after all. I called you here to run an idea by you. My husband and I are the only husband and wife of true Uzumaki blood, as of now. Unless dash. Kushina looked sad. Don't mention it, Mito-san. I am always faithful to my husband the same way you are always faithful to yours. Mito looked solemn. No, Kushina. I would never use you to breed our clan. Uzumaki have higher ideals than that. I was about to say that we need to look for other Uzumaki in the countries. We were scattered by the war, and are now scarce. The remaining Uzumaki must stay together if our clan is to be born again from the ashes. Who would we send to do this task? I am going myself, it is within my rights as clan head. I am sure my husband will accompany me. Will you? Of course I will. The council would never accept this, though. Depriving Konoha of Naruto for an extended period of time would never sit well with them, said Kushina. My husband has revealed his Mokuton, but he still is yet to regain his old strength. I have influence enough to make them let go of him. They know I was Hashirama's wife, and that I am the only one alive who knows anything about Mokuton except him. You are also a force to be reckoned with. 3 years of absence for training should suit our purposes well enough, don't you think? Kushina smiled. This would be an excellent opportunity to rebuild their family. And an opportunity to get to know her son better. I agree. The Council of Iwa stood up, greeting their Tsushikage. Onaki floated to his chair, and signaled them to sit. He looked around at them, anger slowly blooming across his diminutive face. You know why we are here. Konoha defeated us yet again. We never stood a chance against that boy. The council is gathered to discuss our counter to Konoha's god of shinobi. Few exist who can match his power, which by the way is still growing. We need allies. The council started muttering in low voices. The seriousness of the situation was not lost on them, obviously. An elderly shinobi stood up. Suna is an option. They too were beaten back by Konoha, and their Jinjuuriki was captured. Surely they will consider an alliance with us. Too bad we can't just invade them, muttered a Jounin. Onaki shot a sharp look at him, making him quail. No more invasions for a long while. We need to recover first. Anyway, Kiri is strongly tending towards an alliance with Konoha, and Kumo already signed an agreement with them. I am afraid Suna is our only option, weak though they are. There were muttered agreements all around the council of the Tsushikage. The air to the side of the table spiraled into a single point, spitting out two red-cloaked men. One had an orange mask and the other was a handsome blonde with golden hair. Hello, old man. Toby, you moron, would you stop tugging on my sleeve? Deidara? How dare you come here? I have no agreements with Akatsuki as of now. Leave before I turn you to dust. Ordered Onaki, looking irritated. Humph, as if. My art is higher than yours. Enough, Toby. Screamed Deidara. Toby hid himself behind a pillar, yelling apologies to his senpai. Deidara turned back to Onaki. I am here to tell you not to interfere with Suna, old man. We predicted your intentions, and I was sent here to make you an offer. The council was staring at their Nukenin with outrage and fear, but were calmed by Onaki. The Tsushikage faced Deidara. Get on with it, boy. My back isn't getting any better. Deidara grinned. Yeah. You continue hiring our organization, and we can guarantee you Suna's support besides our own. Onaki looked disbelieving. Really, Deidara? Just for so much money, you will guarantee a nation's support along with the power of 9S class ninja? Not really. You see, we have another condition. We need you to grant us haven in Iwa. If we need, the choice is yours, old man. The council was shocked by this demand, but Onaki was considering. Kumo and Kiri would not deal with a humiliated nation. Suna was the only choice, and Akatsuki's strength was unquestionable. Here came Deidara, promising him the aid of Suna and Akatsuki. He could save his men by avoiding a takeover of Suna. He doubted that Suna would be amenable to an alliance. That boy Naruto could defeat him in an all-out fight if it came down to it, and Konoha had the strength of individuals. He would put Iwa above anything, even his own morals. That is what Musama had taught him. That was the Nidaime's legacy. He made his decision. Naruto was grinning happily, as he walked alongside Jiraiya. He had actually won at gambling, hands down. His luck had improved. He couldn't wait until he told Mito. True, he had beaten Tsunade whose luck at gambling was as bad as his own, but still it was a start. I won at gambling, I actually won. Shouted Naruto, too happy to keep a low voice. Jiraiya too looked happy. Good thing too, you got Tsunade to agree. She was always notorious for failing to follow through with payment when she lost, though. We need to keep an eye on her. She might still be considering Orochimaru's offer, you know, said Jiraiya pensively. Naruto looked angered now. Let him come. I will end him. I know you want him to pay for Sensei's death, I do too. But he is too strong to take down without a large-scale battle, and we don't want any more attention drawn to ourselves. Wasn't that battle with Akatsuki enough? Naruto calmed down at that. Nevertheless, no grandchild of his would ever be in league with Orochimaru. He admired the Snake Sonin's skill and resilience, but hated everything else about him. I will still try to kill Orochimaru if I set eyes on him again. He is too dangerous. No way will I let Tsunade turn her back on Konoha. Jiraiya nodded. I will speak to Tsunade about it. Anyway, how is your progress with the Rasengan? I finished stage 1, so saying Naruto took out a water balloon and circulated chakra violently in it. The balloon burst in a shower of water. Great job. Now, the second step. Try to pop these rubber balls, said Jiraiya and gaily tossed him a sack of the stuff. Naruto grumbled, and went to work. At least learning the Rasengan for a while would help him clear his head after meeting his jaded and world-weary granddaughter. He really wished he could talk to Mito about all this. Worry shot through him as he remembered the Rinnegan user. He had fought only the Deva path. He absently got out a rubber ball and got to work. This step obviously emphasized power, just as the previous step had emphasized rotation. Just like Bijudama. Rotation. Power. Containment. Containment was easy enough, he already did that with his heavenly pillars of light. The problem was power, how to introduce more power into the Rasengan. Uchiha Sasuke stood in front of the secret Nakano shrine of the Uchiha, his eyes morphing into the Mangekyo Sharingan. His eyes alighted upon the tablet supposedly carved by the sage of the six paths himself. He began to read, noting the difference in perception between the Sharingan and the Mangekyo Sharingan. He could comprehend more of the tablet. Eagerly he read on. Somehow, the evolution of his eyes had led him to being able to read the tablet in more detail. Still he knew that the tablet contained much more information. As he read, his face changed from eagerness to disbelief to anger. Damn you, Itachi! You had to give me these eyes. If only I knew what was going on with you. Sasuke-kun. Sasuke shook himself out of his daze, looking properly at the woman who had called him. He was at Naruto's apartment, and Kushina was doting over him as usual. Lucky Naruto. I'm sorry, Kushina-san. I was just thinking about my eyes. He had told Kushina everything, from his Mangekyo to what light Naruto had shed on Itachi. He knew Naruto knew more than he let on, but one look at his teammate's face had told him that it was confidential. He had to find out for himself, it seemed. Kushina had been very worried when she learned that Naruto had been in another dangerous fight. He trusted Kushina for some reason. She was like his mother. Unassuming and always ready to help. So he told her everything. If only I could tell him what happened with Itachi. Jiraiya, Naruto, Mito, and I are the only ones who know, apart from the council and the Sandaime. My son has not told him for a reason, and I trust his judgment. I am so sorry, Sasuke, you will have to find out for yourself, thought Kushina. Sasuke-kun, I believe you will find the answers only if you speak with Itachi candidly. That will also give you closure. I know how much you are hurting from that incident, but you have me and Naruto now. Not to mention Mito-san. Sasuke did a double take as Mito was mentioned. The woman holding Naruto's hand back then was the new clan head of Uzumaki. He did not even know there was such a clan till now. But the beautiful woman called Mito had taken that mantle, and she seemed unnaturally close to Naruto. The council had introduced her to the public as a long-lost Uzumaki sealing mistress returned to Konoha again. The Jounin however seemed to look at her with respect and worship. Kushina-san too seemed really respectful with her. She seemed to be a really important person. His eyes registered her strength and confidence, and he realized that this was no ordinary kunoichi. Thoughts of his eyes banished the curious Uzumaki Mito from his mind. Knowing what he knew from the Nakano shrine, the Mangekyo Sharingan was a burden. He would not go blind. He would not. I won't die before restoring the Uchiha clan, Itachi. If I have to get the eternal eyes by killing you, then so be it. But I will find out the truth about you first. Naruto focused hard on his 66th rubber ball. He was only able to puncture them by now, not pop them. Jiraiya had said it was fine and had started him on the third stage. That one came to him easily, and he had learned the Rasengan fast enough. But it could be so much more. It had been 2 days since he met Tsunade, and Jiraiya had gone to talk with her. Tsunade, it appeared, was indeed notorious about following through with payments. She kept putting off the trip with some excuse or the other. He hoped Jiraiya would be able to talk her out of her stubbornness as he didn't want to reveal himself this soon. He would rather do that after he reacquainted himself with Tsunade to a certain degree. He gathered his chakra and pumped it violently through the rubber ball, causing it to puncture and lose air slowly. He was trying to improve the second phase, increase the power of the Rasengan. What am I doing wrong? With the water balloon I rotated my chakra constantly in chaotic manner, here I do the same and the ball only punctures no matter how much power I use. Heh, who would have believed I would get a chance to instruct you, Hashirama? Asked Kuabe, who seemed to be rather happy. What do you mean? Would you come in here? It's really irritating to break through your suppression and talk to you this way. Fine. Naruto closed his eyes and stood in his forest mindscape. Kurama was sleeping in his huge wooden cage, and batted open an eyelid as he came closer. You know, Hashirama, you did promise that I could get out of this place soon. I didn't know you were someone to go back on their word. Funny, Kurama. I may be strong this moment, but I am not yet enough to suppress you by chakra alone. You know I need to reach my old strength before I can do that. Kurama looked at him quizzically. Have you forgotten that thrice-damned necklace of yours? No, but I cannot find it. I asked Hiruzen, but he said it wasn't in Konoha. Hashirama, I will tell you where to find the necklace and clue you in about what you are missing with the Rasengan, if you promise to take me out of this cage and let me free, at least in your mindscape. Naruto spied the Baijuya. It seemed reasonable. Once he had his necklace back, he would be able to suppress Kurama without any seals. I agree. Tell me. The nine-tailed fox sighed. I could sense it on that hot blonde woman you were fighting earlier. Your granddaughter. Naruto looked flummoxed. Impossible. I would have felt it at such proximity. Well, you were fighting too intently to sense your chakra's reaction to the thing, but I could sense it all too well. Your necklace is with the woman. And as for that Rasengan of yours, remember its origins, and you will know what you are missing. Naruto was happy. 2 problems solved. All he had to do was get the necklace from Tsunade, and master the Rasengan. Thank you. He opened his eyes and saw again the park he was practicing in. Tsunade and the necklace had to wait, but he could certainly master the Rasengan. Origins. Bijudama was the origin. He closed his eyes again, remembering his final fight with his friend and rival Uchiha Madara. Damn, he armored the Baijuya with Susanoo. Smart Madara. He remembered the way Kurama looked like a demon lord, holding the twin swords of Susanoo and mirroring the eternal Mangekyo of Madara. The Baijuya roared, looking terrifying in its complete armor of chakra. He noted clearly how the chakra coalesced into Kurama's mouth, and its violent rotation. The ball of unbelievably dense chakra seemed to pulse at its edges. Wait, it pulsed at its edges? Naruto opened his eyes immediately, thoughts striking in a torrent. Why would the Bijudama pulse? No rotational force pushed outwards in such a way, however chaotic. I'm an idiot. He had to add one more component to the rotation, one that made the Rasengan actually explode upon contact. An outward force from the center had to complement the violent rotation. He picked up a rubber ball, and began again. The turbulence of his chakra was wearing down the ball's durability and he knew it was coming close to the point of puncture. He simultaneously caused his chakra to gather at the center, and focused. A small gathering of chakra, surrounded by violent rotation of chakra. It needs to explode, like the Bijudama. Senin's Rasengan is good, but I can make it better. He needed to generate explosive power within the ball. And it had to be done with little effort. He could simply force the explosion, but that would be inefficient. There had to be an answer. He cast aside the shuddering ball and laid down on the ground thinking. Improving the second step was difficult. Jiraiya-sama. Came the concerned voice of Shizune when she saw the Sunin slumped across the table. It had been about 4 hours since he had disappeared with Tsunade for a drink. Tsunade had invited him for a drink to old times, and had apparently drugged him. Jiraiya got up with difficulty, his face showing his near-inert state. Shizune, Tsunade drugged me, I can use only a small portion of my chakra now. I am afraid she means to go to Orochimaru. We need to get her back. Let's go. What about Naruto-kun? Jiraiya slumped down again. Damn Tsunade. She was still as good as she was back then. He had given Naruto instructions about the second and third steps to the Rasengan some 4 hours ago, and come to convince Tsunade. It seemed Naruto would have to reveal himself sooner than expected. No need, she's unna. He will already have sensed my drop in chakra. He'll be here in a matter of seconds. True enough, Naruto appeared with a shunshin. The young jounin seemed to look spent. His clothes were torn up, and he had a few cuts on his face which seemed to be healing fast. Ero-sennin, she drugged you, didn't she? I can sense her and Orochimaru, they are fighting. Let's go. I cannot, Naruto. My chakra. Naruto lifted up a hand with green chakra running through it. I can help you there. He laid the healing palm on Jirahaya's chest, and the man stood straighter. That is the best I can do on short notice. Purging drugs require attention to detail I don't have now. We need to rescue Tsunade. Besides, that drug will purge itself eventually. It's enough. Come on, she's unna. She's unna, who was staring wide-eyed at Naruto's casual display of advanced healing, nodded. The three disappeared. There is no need for me to sense Tsunade, Ero-sennin, this trail of destruction is enough to track her. It was true. As they went on they could see large craters, smashed walls, and general rubble. Jiraiya nodded and looked at Naruto closely as they sped along the trail. Why are you so bruised? Naruto grimaced and held out his hand, forming a perfect Rasengan. You did it. Amazing, not so much, considering it was you. Wondered Jiraiya. Shizune looked stunned as the Rasengan winked out of existence. Naruto grimaced again. It was not the normal Rasengan, I got that easily enough. But I was trying to improve the second phase with my own theories and that got me in this state. I think it will take me a few years to make my hypothesis with the Rasengan a reality. Jiraiya snorted. Of course. Not even Minato was able to improve the Rasengan. But if anyone can do it, it is you. I myself have tried for many years to add Sutin, but it seems impossible. Naruto just looked ahead, shaking off thoughts of his failed experiment with Rasengan. He would improve it, no matter what. The trail had led outside the village to some empty plain where they could see a particularly large crater. 3 people stood there with 1 woman kneeling. Naruto went cold. Tsunade was shivering, looking at something on Orochimaru's hand. What is she doing? He asked Jiraiya urgently, but it was Shizune who answered. Tsunade-sama is afraid of blood. Naruto cursed. Of all possible fears for a shinobi. He glanced at Jiraiya and Shizune, who nodded. 3 chakras. 1 Orochimaru, 1 Kisame, and 1 who I think is Kabuto. Let's go. Naruto disappeared and caught Kisame's hand as it brought Samehada down on Tsunade. Arjunju Urarki is here at last. Laughed Kisame. Orochimaru looked at him warily, and Kabuto stared at him with fascination. Jiraiya appeared next to Tsunade and steadied her. The female Sunin was still shivering as she huddled into Jiraiya. Rejoined Akatsuki, have we, Orochimaru? Didn't expect that. Said Jiraiya noting Orochimaru's Akatsuki cloak. The snake Sunin's hands looked black and withered. Now, Jiraiya, it is mutual benefit and I had to do it earlier than I planned, thanks to dear Naruto-kun. I am sure you understand. Tsunade here tried to kill me while she tried to make me believe she was healing me. If it weren't for Kabuto. Orochimaru trailed off. Naruto stared at Kisame, registering the conversations happening. Kisame knew Naruto would beat him, but he still sensed no hesitation in the man. In fact, the shark-like Akatsuki seemed excited. Heh, too bad I was partnered with Orochimaru. I was beginning to like Itachi-san. Chuckled Kisame. Naruto flared his silver chakra and began to crush Kisame's wrist. Suddenly he gasped and flew back, looking at Samehada with realization. Realized, have you? Samehada can now eat chakra like yours, thanks to the snake here. He did give us a few gifts for letting him return. Itachi wanted to just kill him and be done with it. But no, Leader-sama had to go and reinstate him. He is rather useful, though. Orochimaru smiled at that as Jiraiya handed Tsunade to Shizune, who tried to revive her in vain. We both have our handicaps, Jiraiya, but I think we know who is stronger. He looked at Naruto. You know, Naruto-kun, I was flattered by the fact that I sent you into such a rage that you exterminated an entire army of Iwa for me. Thank you, that made my plans a lot easier, he smirked. Kabuto suddenly slammed his hands down on the ground. Kuki-yos no jutsu. A large snake appeared and hurtled towards Jiraiya, who knew that he was in no condition to summon a worthwhile toad. Naruto, you take Kisame this time. She's unne, fight that stupid apprentice of Orochimaru. I can hold my own with the snake even with my current chakra. Leave Tsunade for now. She's unne shot off towards Kabuto as Naruto and Jiraiya faced their respective opponents. Naruto shone silver and disappeared, attacking Kisame with his taijutsu. Kisame blocked, and swiped Samehada through his shroud of silver chakra. Naruto fell to his knees as Samehada burped noisily, consuming more of his chakra. That sword was very irritating. He scowled. Using Genjutsu against Kisame was not suitable, as it would take too long. Taijutsu too was eliminated. He formed the ram seal as Kisame rushed towards him. He had to take care of Kisame fast, once and for all. Time to wipe out two of the Akatsuki by his own hand. Mokuton. Don't, Hashirama. Get the necklace from her and let me out. I want to play too. Came Kurama's voice. Naruto paused in his thoughts, absently dodging strikes from a grinning Kisame. Samehada came down towards his head with stunning speed. Shunshin no jutsu. He appeared behind Tsunade and put his hand on her neck, feeling for his necklace. There was a chain, he pulled. The necklace glinted, its green pendant shining. He put it on as Tsunade snapped out of her fear-induced shock when he divested her of his necklace. Green chakra blasted out of Naruto in all directions, kicking up a huge wind. Naruto smiled serenely as he felt his chakra become calmer and purer. I can let you out, Kurama. Make sure you don't damage too much of the land, and do not use Bijudama at full strength. Fine. Now can you just do it? The fights around him had paused as Tsunade was walking towards Jiraiya and Orochimaru. Kisame was staring at him, and Shizune was groaning at Kabuto's feet. Naruto disappeared, and appeared in the air above Kabuto with a Rasengan blazing in his hand. Before the spectacled shinobi could react, he slammed the Rasengan into his chest with explosive force, sending him crashing into the ground. One down. He looked at the three Sunin, who were now staring at each other. Naruto frowned as Kabuto appeared beside his master, the wound dealt by the Rasengan healing rapidly. It appeared as if Kabuto had some weak ability of regeneration. Anyway, it was time to let Kurama out. Kisame, I believe the Akatsuki wanted the Kyuubi. Feel free to have him, grinned Naruto. He slammed his hands together. Mokuton, Mokubunshin no jutsu. Kurama, now that I have my necklace, I have made it so that you can manifest through my wood clone. I think you can only use a part of your strength, but it should be enough, he thought to Kurama. He felt the Baijuyu acknowledge this. A large tower of red chakra exploded from his wood clone, reaching to the skies. Kisame looked at the phenomenon with a kind of happy focus, already ignoring Naruto. Kuki-yos no jutsu. Naruto turned and saw that the Sunin had called their boss summons, their battle escalating as well. He really wanted to kill Orochimaru, but now he had to be ready to reabsorb Kurama. The tower of red chakra had subsided, leaving his wood clone transformed into a fox human with 4 tails. He could feel its intense chakra, and its elemental desires. He remained on alert, drawing chakra through his necklace. At the height of his strength he could suppress Kurama easily, but for now he had to use the necklace. Kisame would have his hands full. Kurama, who was manifested through his clone, disappeared and slammed his hands down on Kisame. Kisame met the beast with Samehada, and a huge white explosion resulted, devastating the land. Naruto winced. Kisame would hurt after taking that hit. Facing a Baijuya with the strength of your body was madness. Sure enough, Kisame was down to one knee with his face twisted in pain. Bruises covered his body from head to toe. Interestingly, Samehada was buried in Kurama's gut, not piercing him in the slightest. It was bloated to an enormous size and cracks suddenly appeared in its structure. Kisame threw back the beast with a massive heave and stared at his sword. Naruto smiled. The Kyuubi's chakra is practically inexhaustible, Kisame. Through the link to my clone, it can funnel as much chakra as is necessary to its manifestation. Your sword has more indigestion, I believe. Kisame roared with anger, and rushed at the four-tailed Kyuubi with same hata held aloft. The Kyuubi raised its hands and they elongated, capturing Kisame in huge fists. Kurama then proceeded to slam Kisame onto the ground repeatedly, dazing the Akatsuki. Kisame was then tossed so hard onto the ground that a small depression appeared. Kurama's bloodlust skyrocketed as hundreds of multicolored balls of chakra floated from his body into the air. Kisame got up groggily, and saw the beast open its mouth. The multiple balls of chakra coalesced into a single ball of massive density. Naruto looked on curiously as Kurama prepared a much less intense version of his true Genjutsu. The four-tailed Kyuubi swallowed the ball and bloated to a comical size. Kisame kept staring at the thing drunkenly, apparently yet to recover from his violent beating. Same hata's hilt snaked around him, giving him chakra. Naruto knew that he was toast as he could feel the staggering amount of chakra Kurama was releasing. A battered Orochimaru and Kabuto appeared by the still recovering Kisame's side, and Kabuto slammed his hands into the ground. Kukiyos, Sanju Urashouman. 3 demonic gates rose from the ground to defend the Akatsuki trio as Kurama released a huge and blinding bright beam of red energy. Naruto snorted. The Rashouman was just enough to stop that underpowered Genjutsu. As it was, the 3 gates exploded into dust, throwing everything into sharp relief. He could feel Jiraiya and Tsunade dispel their summons, and he could feel Orochimaru and his colleagues being tossed far away from the clearing. They weren't dead, too bad. If not for the Rashouman, they would have been at least critically wounded. He could sense them fleeing, though. Akatsuki wouldn't attack so brazenly after so many defeats. He slammed his hands together, and dispelled his wood clone, causing Kurama to unmanifest completely. Good fight, Kurama. Thank you for underpowering your Genjutsu. I know firsthand the power in that attack. The shark face underestimated me, Hashirama. From the way he fought, he thought me to be a mindless beast. I think he has fought other free Genjutsu before, I really want to tear him apart. Me too. But I have a feeling he won't go down that easily. Naruto turned and ran to Shizune, but Tsunade was already healing her. Jiraiya grinned at him. I see you handed Kisame his 3rd defeat, as expected. Tsunade really roughed up Orochimaru, the snake was literally crawling after his beating. Great job. Hime congratulated Jiraiya loudly. Tsunade blushed slightly, and stared up at Naruto with a small amount of respect. That necklace you took is my grandfather's, Gaki. You used it well to manipulate the Kyuubi's chakra, but I need it back. It is very important to me, the only heirloom of my family I have except my grandfather's armor, she requested sadly. Naruto couldn't contain himself. You have my necklace, and now you have my old armor? What else do you have, Tsunade-chan? My old katana? No, my scroll. He shouted excitedly. Tsunade stared at him with absolute shock, as did Shizune. Jiraiya just face-palmed. Naruto just stood there with mouth open, looking sheepish. Why am I running my mouth so much these days? He looked at Tsunade, noting her disbelieving expression. I suppose now is as good a time as any to tell you. Let's get back to the hotel, Rasengan. The Toad Sage grasped Tsunade's shoulder and disappeared with her, followed closely by Naruto and an amazed Shizune. At least this would make sure Tsunade would return to Konoha. Beyond any shadow of doubt. He really wanted to go home, and be with his family. And now that family would include Tsunade. His wife, his mother, and his granddaughter. What an odd family he had. Chapter 11. The clouds darkened as if it was about to rain. A tall youth with a ponytail and Akatsuki cloak walked the desolate land. His constantly activated Sharingan blazed red as he walked with a thoughtful expression. So, you are the notorious Uchiha Itachi. You don't look like much, said a voice behind him. He turned around in surprise, and saw a woman fully in white. Her deep white hooded cloak concealed her face excellently, and for some reason even the Sharingan could not penetrate that concealment. You evaded me. Most impressive, Itachi said stoically. His Sharingan saw the massive chakra the woman held. It was somewhat larger than his own. I am here to collect the bounty placed on your head, Uchiha Itachi. S-ranked criminal whose true strength is unknown, murderer of the Uchiha, traitor to Konoha, your price in the bingo book is very high, after all, said the woman in a calm voice. Itachi still observed her stoically. The woman was very strong, and was obviously not to be taken lightly. You can try, but I am afraid you will be dead soon enough. The woman said, let us see, and disappeared with barely a sound. Itachi's mastery of the Sharingan allowed him to react in abundant time, and he easily caught the palm that was aimed at his chest. He pivoted and aimed a kick at her head which was neatly dodged. The woman then sped forward and threw at him a complex series of punches and kicks, the finesse and control amazing him. But he was not called the true heir of the Sharingan for nothing, and he met her attacks efficiently, extending the battle. Finally he caught her right-handed punch with his own, and slammed his elbow onto her face. At the same time, he could feel her kick connect to his side. The two of them separated and flew back several yards from each other. His opponent seemed to be considering him carefully. You do not use Genjutsu on me, I see. You are a master of Genjutsu, are you not? I am. But you are a sensor ninja, and by the way your chakra flows I can see that your chakra is especially inert to Genjutsu, answered Itachi. He formed the ox seal and intoned, Katon, Gokaku no Jutsu. A massive fireball shot from his mouth, roaring towards the hooded woman at a fast pace. It burned a huge furrow in the ground as it rushed onwards. Sutten, Mizu no Meu, said the woman forming the bird seal. Inexplicably, his onrushing ball of fire was covered by water and came rushing back to him. The water surrounding the fire was now boiling, making it even deadlier. Itachi's Sharingan widened as it analyzed the extremely skilled Sutten manipulation. He was not strong enough with Sutten to stop that attack, and did not have time for Katon. Only one option, then. His eyes morphed into the Mangekyo Sharingan. Amaterasu. The heavenly black flames swallowed up the counter-attack of the woman, and Itachi turned his baleful gaze upon her. The fires of Amaterasu materialized instantly in a large torrent in front of the woman and fell upon her. Itachi looked with surprised eyes as his unquenchable flames were absorbed neatly into the woman. Fukahoin. The strongest fire suppressor there is, he said, impressed with her ingenuity. She slammed her palms together, and Itachi saw her chakra surging like a turbulent sea. A rippling grey cloak of chakra surrounded her lithe form. Fuinjutsu, Hikari no Zettai Shimetsu, she proclaimed, and pure light began to gather around her, forming into hundreds of weapons. Absolute annihilation of the light. Light chakra manipulation and sealing techniques combined together. What power, I will have to use that technique. It is the only thing that can repel this, thought Itachi as his Mangekyo Sharingan shone a menacing red. The hundreds of weapons impacted Itachi in a multitude, and an extremely large explosion ensued. The ground began to tear up everywhere, and the air became hot with the energy released by the technique. The woman kept staring at the place where Itachi was attacked by her technique as the smoke cleared. Then she saw something impossible, or rather, something unexpected. A large skeleton of golden chakra towering to 50 feet encased the Uchiha, holding a burning sword of flames in one hand and a flaming red shield in the other. Itachi strode forward impassively as the woman gasped in surprise. I am afraid it is the end of the line for you, said the Uchiha shortly, and the skeleton was now beginning to be covered by sinew of chakra, and the sinew was then coated by 2 layers of armor, the face of the huge warrior now obscured by the visor. Only the glowing eyes showed through. The woman stood stock still as she glanced at the weapons the towering warrior of chakra bore. So powerful at such a young age, just like Uchiha Madara and, she said, causing Itachi to stop for a moment in his inexorable advance. What did you say? To awaken such a strong Susanoo completely, to have it manifest the sword of Totsuka which can seal anything, and the Yada mirror which can repel all attacks. You are indeed the true heir of the Sharingan, Itachi. She praised in a wondering voice. Itachi narrowed his eyes and stared at her. This woman knew too much, and had to be eliminated. The sword of Totsuka swung down at her in a flaming arc, and she raised her hands like a Hyuga would. Itachi watched closely as seals appeared on her fingertips. The woman seemed to brace herself, and then, she slapped the sword of Totsuka away. She then fell down to the ground on her knees, gasping. Itachi stared at her with absolute astonishment. "You parried this sword? How is it possible?" he whispered. But he observed her and saw that she had lost a large amount of chakra during that parry. It would evidently be a race of who could hold out longer. He cursed as every cell in his body began to hurt, leading him to cough blood to the ground. Susanoo was very expensive with just the Mangekyo. He had to finish this, fast. The sword of Totsuka swung at her rapidly, but the woman formed the seals every time and parried the sword. Each time she did, however, she fell to the earth briefly before she gathered herself again. She raised her hands to finally block the legendary sword, and Itachi saw her lose most of her chakra as his sword was deflected. She fell to her knees, exhausted completely. His Sharingan observed her chakra levels that were practically non-existent. His eyes were hurting, and his body was weak by this much use of Susanoo. He fell to the ground, coughing blood. He had to release the Susanoo if he were to live. He still had much to do, too much. So he released the technique and staggered forwards. The woman too staggered towards him and raised her hands in a sign of peace, weakly. Itachi stopped and stared wearily. His eyes were beginning to lose their sight, as his vision became blurry. "You remind me of my son so much. He was just like you, sacrificing everything for our village. I see him in you. My husband was right about you." Itachi had a suspicion forming in his head as he took support on a tree trunk and stared as the panting woman removed her hood. A shock of long red hair fell out, revealing a pale and beautifully heart-shaped face. It was a face he recognized well. The beautiful face of Uzumaki Mito stared at him with motherly affection. "Mito-san," he whispered with utter surprise. "Hashirama was right about you, Itachi-kun. You are so much like our son. Shall we depart to a safe location? We need to talk." Itachi just nodded, and the two gathered their remaining strength with a great effort of will to disappear in a burst of speed. Naruto walked leisurely on the road to Konoha with Jiraiya, Shizune, and Tsunade accompanying him. He grinned. Even this grown-up version of Tsunade idolized him, it seemed. He remembered her reaction as she learned his identity. "I am Hashirama. The rumors you have heard about me defeating Iwa are true. So, you still have me and Mito left. The Senju clan is still strong with us alive." He finished his tale, recounting the astonishing events of the past months. "Ajisen, how can this be? You died, and yet you are back by Minato's mistake. You reborn as Minato's son. What a trick of fate this is," murmured Tsunade in disbelief. She faced her beloved grandfather, who she thought she would meet only in the afterlife. She stared at him with tears flowing continuously down her cheeks. She had to believe it, she had no choice with his story and the facts pointing to it. Not to mention Jiraiya was seriously corroborating everything that had been said. The man who had practically raised her in her childhood, who had taught her many things that stayed with her all her life and made her who she was. The man who taught her the meaning of the most important things in life. "I am back, Tsunade-chan," he said, and looked at her sadly. "I know you were deeply hurt by Nawaka's death, but that was no reason for you to forsake your comrades. You know of my history. I too lost two of my brothers at a very tender age. I do not mean to belittle your grief, but you must be thankful that you had significant amounts of good memories of Nawaka before he passed. Clan and village are not meant to be forsaken for the sake of personal angst, Tsunade-chan." Tsunade could hardly believe it as she hung her head in shame. She couldn't look him in the eyes, she knew what he said to be true. Her grandfather truly had experienced much more loss than she had. Still he had never even thought of drowning in his own sorrows as she had. "Have you forgotten the love and faith of our Senju clan? Have you forgotten the will of fire my son and you his daughter inherited from me? Does the will not burn in you anymore?" he asked disappointedly. Tsunade was deeply hurt by his disappointment. More than words could say. It had taken her grandfather to come back from the dead and drag her back to Konoha. She suddenly felt regret at her utter foolishness for forsaking the village in her pain. She looked into Naruto's forest green eyes that looked decades older than the rest of his body, and flinched. She saw Senju Hashirama's eyes looking at her with disappointment, sadness, and even understanding. She threw herself into his arms, softly crying. Naruto stroked her hair tenderly, just like he had when she was a little girl. "I'm sorry, Ajisen, I'm so sorry. I was so angry when Dan and Noeka died, it was unbearable. I couldn't bear to see Konoha again, too many bad memories." Naruto nodded and let her go. "The past is unchangeable, Tsunade-chan. The position of Hokage is the greatest honor that can be bestowed upon a Konoha shinobi. It means that you are considered worthy enough to lead the village I founded. Madara refused to be Hokage even when he was given a second chance and spit on our dreams. You know what it led to. So, will you truly come back to Konoha and become the Yondaime Hokage?" Tsunade nodded with resolve, causing Naruto to smile. She then frowned quizzically. "Ajisen, why don't you just become the Hokage again?" "No, I won't. Akatsuki is a true threat, and I do not need the duties of a Hokage to prevent me from protecting Konoha in my full capacity." Tsunade looked at Naruto with happiness. "You say Mito Abasan is also back, Ajisen?" Naruto grinned predatorily. "Yes. She is young again with her 17-year-old body. So beautiful. I really need to thank Orochimaru for that before I kill him." Tsunade now looked happier than ever, as they walked out to rejoin Jiraiya and Shizune. Her teammate and apprentice noticed her huge smile and smiled themselves. It seemed Konoha would have a good Yondaime after all. Naruto was shaken out of his thoughts as a messenger bird dropped a scroll on his head. He bent down to catch it. Jiraiya and Tsunade looked at him inquisitively, and Shizune was attempting to feed the stubborn tauntaun. He opened the scroll and read. "My beloved husband. Uchiha Itachi has agreed to your request. I talked him into it after getting into a stalemate of a fight. And you were right, he is extremely strong. I shudder to think of what strength he will possess when he gains the eternal eyes like Madara. Be warned, his Susanoo uses Totsuka no Tsurugi and the Yata mirror. With the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, the boy might even be a match for you at full strength. You chose a great Uchiha. Him and Sasuke will change that accursed clan, Hashirama. And do not worry about me, I plan on staying with Itachi a while longer as we seek his transplants. He told me he has his mother's eyes stored in a secret Uchiha base. He plans to take Mikoto's eyes and make his Sharingan eternal. We are currently on our way to that base. I will heal Itachi as best as I can, and transplant the eyes onto him. Konoha will be safe for now, with you and Itachi guarding it. Itachi and I will part the following morning. He is a great man, Hashirama. He reminds me of our son every second I lay eyes on him, he feels like my son as well. I will help him to the best of my ability. Please take care of yourself. I will be back in Konoha in another 3 days and I look forward to seeing little Tsunade and you again. Love. Uzumaki Mito." Naruto sighed. Itachi had been incredibly noble when he refused power, but it was necessary. When he had shown him the visions proving his identity, he had also shown the older Uchiha his suspicions about Danzo, what he thought of pain and requested Itachi to try and acquire the eternal Mangekyo somehow. Itachi had said he would consider it, but Naruto sensed his reluctance. Understandable, seeing as he knew what Madara had become after gaining the eternal Mangekyo. He himself had wanted to show Itachi why he needed to get the eternal Mangekyo, but it was in vain. It had been vital for him to heal Sasuke at the time, so he had let Itachi go. But Mito could show him the necessity, and Konoha would have its second defender if the need arose. So he had sent her a message immediately. Sasuke was still developing, so it had to be Itachi. There was no other alternative. Naruto had to admit, the idea of Uchiha Itachi with the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan was very formidable. 3 days later, Konohagakure no Sato. They are here, Kushina-sama. Tsunade-sama is back, along with Naruto-san and Jiraiya-sama. The citizens are welcoming the Yondaime now. Izumo said to Kushina urgently before disappearing on his next errand. Kushina smiled happily on hearing that her son was back, along with Tsunade. He had succeeded, of course he had. Let us meet them in near the Hokage Tower, Mito. We need to see Tsunade-sama's elevation to Godaime. We can exchange information later in the tower when all of us are gathered. Mito nodded, looking elated at this turn of events. Tsunade was back and her task was accomplished. Hashirama would be happy. The two Uzumaki women disappeared, heading towards their about-to-be-completed family. Naruto and Jiraiya looked at Tsunade, seeing her pride and elation as the villagers venerated her as the Godaime. Her beautiful face was radiating joy as she saw the village she had so callously abandoned in her grief, welcoming her with all its heart. Tsunade stepped up to the dais as the council of Konoha approached her solemnly. The villagers were gathered in their thousands, cheering the new Godaime Hokage. Naruto watched proudly from her side as Homura stepped up and began the ceremony of Tsunade's elevation to Godaime. Senju Tsunade, you are chosen by Konoha to be its Godaime Hokage. The Hokage is the heart of the village, just as the shinobi are its lifeblood. That was what our Shodai Hokage, Senju Hashirama taught us. Will you be the essence, the heart, the leader of Konoha? Asked Homura. The thousands of villagers and shinobi observed solemnly as the ceremony that was as old as the first Hokage happened for the 5th time. I will, said Tsunade firmly. Then, Senju Tsunade, you are appointed the Godaime Hokage of Konoha, the one who will guide us, protect us, and lead us to prosperity. May you reign be long and great. Said Koharu, placing the Hokage hat of Konoha in Tsunade's hands. Naruto watched as Tsunade wore the Hokage hat for the first time, and he felt proud. 3 Senju have become Hokage out of 5. All 3 with the same blood as me flowing through their veins. You did well to accept, Tsunade-chan. You are strong enough to be Hokage, there is no doubt about it. You will be great as our leader. He saw Mito and his mother watching from the windows of the Hokage Tower as Tsunade turned to the gathered multitude of Konoha's populace. Mito, like him, was wearing an expression of pride and affection as she saw their granddaughter become Hokage. His mother just waved at him happily, and he waved back. At the heart of our village, in the hearts of our shinobi, it is the Hokage who are the guiding light. The one whose strength protects Konoha and keeps it prosperous, said Tsunade as she stared around at the gathered thousands. Sarutobi-sensei was one of our greatest shinobi, giving up everything for the sake of the village. Many other shinobi of our village have immersed themselves in darkness only to protect the light we live in. We have been invaded by Suna and Oto, and we were defended by our great shinobi. We beat back the invaders, and erased Iwa's strongest army. Sensei defeated Orochimaru utterly before he died, ridding us of another major threat. The crowd looked proud and reverent as they stared at Naruto, and remembered their great Sandaime at the same time. Many more threats loom over our village, and we must grow stronger as a village. I will not allow our village that was founded by the likes of my grandfather Senju Hashirama and the Uchiha Patriarch Madara, to be overrun by our enemies. The clans of our great village will work together with our shinobi, and we will realize the great dream of peace Hashirama dreamed for us. This I swear as the Godaime Hokage. The crowd cheered madly, and the shinobi flared their chakra in response. Naruto could feel the change in the village as Tsunade assumed the mantle he himself had worn for so many years. You would be so proud of your daughter, my son. Just as your mother and I will always be proud of you. Hokage Tower, Konoha. Kakashi, Mito, Kushina, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Naruto had assembled in the Hokage's private offices after Tsunade's ceremony. The seal of privacy had been activated, giving them absolute concealment. Glad to see you have come to your senses, Tsunade. You were always a stubborn one. Mito commented, examining Tsunade with a discerning eye. Tsunade blushed faintly and nodded. Then her eyes firmed and she looked at the gathered ninja seriously. Much has changed in Konoha, and the balance of power is shifting very fast in the nations. The next few years will be extremely vital to the growth of shinobi as a whole. Grandfather has told me all about Akatsuki, and they are the pressing issue here. We must respond fast to their threat. Jiraiya, what is the status of that group? Jiraiya gathered his thoughts for a moment. Suna is responding erratically to our messages, and Iwa is currently closed to us in all channels. AIM is becoming increasingly hostile as well. We would do well to assume that Akatsuki is now involving itself in international and political affairs. If we cannot control the situation, then we must be ready for it. Mito nodded, looking at Naruto. Hashirama, Itachi now possesses the eternal Mangekyo as you had wished for him to. He burnt off his blinding cloth with Amaterasu easily. He will be an extremely formidable ally to our village. Tsunade shivered slightly when Mito herself addressed Naruto as Hashirama. She steepled her fingers behind her desk, considering the problem that the Akatsuki posed. The Akatsuki have extremely powerful ninja under them. You could probably wipe them all out easily, couldn't you, Ajisen? She asked Naruto hopefully. I could deal with the lesser Akatsuki easily enough, but the higher members, especially Pain, are very powerful shinobi. I refuse to underestimate the sage's eyes, and I can face all 9 at once, but only after I have my full power back. I need to get to that fast. Which is why you insisted on Itachi getting the eternal eyes. To ensure Konoha's protection when you were gone. Kakashi asked. Hashirama never takes chances with the village, Kakashi-kun. He may be the strongest ninja since the Six-Path Sage, but Konoha was not built with arrogance, nor preserved by it. It is prudence and planning that has made our village stand proud for this long lectured Mito. Jiraiya looked to Tsunade. Hime, we should solidify our alliances fast. Suna and Iwa are in a state of hostility against our village, and Akatsuki still roams the land free. We need a counter for them, our own organization within the village. Something to respond to Akatsuki should they make another move. Kushina, who had quietly observed the proceedings, spoke up as the group considered the idea carefully. Such a group would have to consist of our most powerful shinobi, except Hokage-sama. Until my son finishes his training, the group must be on standby against any Akatsuki threat. Naruto walked to the center of the room with Mito at his side. The legendary couple examined the new generation of Konoha's shinobi. Naruto turned to Tsunade. Tsunade, who would you have in that group? Tsunade replied immediately. Not you, Ajisen. You will leave to train. Konoha will be unassailable with the full strength of Senju Hashirama on its side. That automatically eliminates Mito Abasan and Kushina as they will be going with you. Naruto nodded, as did Mito and Kushina. Jiraiya said. Kakashi, Guy, and me will join the group. My intelligence network is now autonomous enough for me to complete other missions. Perhaps we should include Kumo and Kiri in this venture. Tsunade's face lit up. Excellent idea, Jiraiya. The organization of this team will be our highest priority. 3 from Kumo, 3 from Kiri and 3 from Konoha will form the response team to the Akatsuki. We will somehow need to get this news to Itachi-kun, pondered Mito. Naruto agreed. Yes. I will not leave Itachi out of the loop. He is Konoha's second most powerful shinobi, after me. And unflinchingly loyal. If what my wife says is true, then he will be the only one with strength enough to stop the true Pain besides me. I agree with Naruto. Now, what to do about Sasuke-kun? Asked Kushina with concern. Is he stable? Has the Mangekyo had any adverse effects on his psyche? Naruto asked his mother. I believe so, he has already had great trauma in his life. The Mangekyo Sharingan has increased his depression even more. He should never have awakened it this early. Itachi made a foolish mistake giving him those eyes. She said sharply. Naruto watched amused as his wife vehemently defended Itachi's actions. Itachi-kun was only making contingencies for the village's and his clan's survival. Kushina, would you not do the same if it meant the survival of the Uzumaki and Konoha? She asked heatedly. The rest watched as Kushina slowly wilted under Mito's stare. The younger Uzumaki woman nodded with slow agreement. I suppose I would. But Sasuke is also like a son to me, almost as much as Naruto. They should never have had such misery in their life. She whispered sadly. The Uchiha treasure love more than anyone, Kaa-san. You don't know what happened to Madara when my brother killed Izuna. He went mad with lust for power and revenge. Hatred consumes those Uchiha whose love is lost. In this matter, I side with Itachi. I too would do anything to keep my brother safe and strong, to keep my clan alive and to keep my village standing, Naruto said sadly. Tsunade however spoke. Anyway, let us discuss what overtures we have to make to Kiri. Kushina, I believe you are very familiar with the Yondaime Hokage. They continued their plans. Konoha would not fall to Akatsuki or anyone else. Akatsuki Base, unknown location. Senjutsu Nade, the medic Sunin, has become the Hokage of Konoha. Zetsu reports that Konoha has begun to gather power actively under her direction. Uzumaki Mito, Kushina, Naruto, and others met yesterday with the Hokage to hold conference, but Zetsu was unable to breach their guarding seal. We cannot oppose the strength of Konoha with a guarantee of our victory. So, our approach this time will be militaristic, said Pain in his deep voice, looking around at the gathered members of the Akatsuki. They had gathered physically this time. Konoha is allied with Kiri and Kumo. Suna and Iwa hate Konoha and we will use that hatred against them all. Deidara, what was the Tsuchikage's decision? Deidara snickered. The old man is with us 100% and accepted all our conditions. We can begin building our bases in Iwa somewhat legally. Good. We control Suna anyway, and I control Omegakur. We will begin to array the strength of the other minor villages on our side in the next 3 years, and also capture what Jinhiriki we can. Konoha will eventually understand along with the Kyuubi Jinhiriki the consequences of angering God. Kakuza looked at Pain. All fine and good, but we need details and facts for our missions. Toby will bring my orders to all of you, individually. Let us disperse. The Akatsuki walked towards the exit, but Pain appeared in front of Itachi, who was the last to leave. Do you really believe I cannot sense your unbelievably drastic increase in strength, Itachi? My Rinnegan is the strongest Jujutsu in existence. What happened to your Mangekyo? Questioned Pain in an impassive voice. Itachi did not answer and just stared at Pain, evaluating and considering. Space distorted into a compressing spiral as the orange-masked Toby appeared in the room beside the Uchiha. Answer him, Itachi, or you will not be leaving here alive. We know that Sasuke is fine, his eyes are also fine. How did you do it? He questioned in a menacing and deep voice, all signs of infuriating childishness melting away. Itachi turned to him slowly. My secrets are mine, and mine alone, Uchiha Madara, he said with a very faint undertone of mocking in his voice. Pain's Rinnegan blazed. How do you know of Toby's identity, Itachi? He asked impassively. I can recognize his Sharingan. I felt it on the day of the Uchiha massacre when he chose to aid me. I never forget an Uchiha whose Sharingan I have seen. Toby clapped appreciatively. Yes. I too have that talent, young Itachi. Now, I remember the feeling of your Mangekyo very well. But it seems your eyes have now evolved to Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Itachi's Sharingan began to shine malevolently as he faced Pain and Toby across the Gado statue. I told you. My secrets are mine alone. Akatsuki needs my power and loyalty, not my secrets. But I will tell you this, Madara. My eyes are eternal now, supposedly like yours. Pain and Itachi stared as Toby began laughing heartily. The masked man slowly walked to Itachi and clapped him on the back in a comradely fashion. The second person ever to awaken the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, the blood of Madara Uchiha runs strongly in you, Itachi. You will be of great use to Akatsuki, of great use indeed. Prepare yourself for your mission. He said with authority. Itachi raised a quizzical eyebrow. His Sharingan picked up traces of pride in the impostor. Odd. I will tell you on our way, said Pain with his Rinnegan blazing as he walked to stand beside Itachi. You. Yes. My Rinnegan and your eternal Mangekyo Sharingan can achieve anything when used together. No one can stand against us. We will be the final power of Akatsuki, and we shall step in only when our goals are in jeopardy. I will be your partner from now on. Toby nodded. Yes. Pain will tell you of his true state and a little about his history if you are to be his partner in such a capacity. And you will know of our plan. Welcome to the highest echelons of Akatsuki, Uchiha Itachi. Itachi slightly nodded, keeping his face free of any and all expressions or emotion. He was in. But I suspect Toby knows a lot more about me than he lets on, and I can perceive that he is trying to use me to get something. I must be careful. Kushina, Naruto, and Mito all walked down the silent lanes of Konoha. It was late in the evening, and the civilians were all in their homes. The lights were shining in the entire village, and the quietness was calming. Naruto wrapped an arm around Mito's shoulders and hugged her to his side. Kushina watched wistfully as they saw the love shining in the eyes of the great couple. "Why do you let Itachi-kun call you by your real name, Hashirama?" questioned Mito softly, looking up at her husband. "Yes, I've noticed that as well, Naruto. You let some people call you Naruto, and some call you Hashirama. Does it not spark conflict in your mind?" Kushina asked worriedly. Naruto considered, pondering his answer for several minutes. He looked at his two most precious people and replied. "Yes. People from my past life, such as Mito-chan, know me as Hashirama. People from this life know me as Naruto. Some, like Hiruzen, knew me as both. The truth is, I have accepted the fact that I don't really know who I am." "What do you mean, Hashirama?" "How can I best explain it? When I awakened my old life, I became Hashirama. But I am also Naruto. I am both of them and none of them at the same time. I became someone new." "You remember how angry I got at Iwa, don't you?" asked Naruto. Kushina and Mito both shivered and nodded. No one who witnessed that battle would ever forget it. It was seared in their minds forever. Naruto continued, looking introspective. "As Hashirama, I was never roused so quickly. In this life, Hiruzen was the only one I could take comfort from." At this, Kushina let out a soft sob. Naruto encircled his mother in the embrace of his left arm as they sat down on the park bench. "Don't be sad, Kaa-san. I do not like what had to be done, but I have made my peace with it. As I was saying, when Hiruzen died, I felt anger such as I have never felt before. That was what I used to feel as purely Naruto. I had very few people I could call precious when I was just Naruto, so I tend to protect them much more viciously. Even now. I suppose I can understand a little of what the Uchiha feel as their love is destroyed." Naruto looked at Mito, who seemed to be thinking hard. "Mito, you knew me as Hashirama." "I am Hashirama, yes, but no longer am I only Hashirama." He turned to his mother. "Nor am I only Naruto. I am both of them and more than both of them combined. I am a new person, and that is why I said I don't know who I am. I am still discovering myself." "But Hashirama, you did not answer my original question," reminded Mito gently. Naruto sighed. "Yes. You see, I truly admire Itachi. He is a shinobi who is truly a beacon for this generation. His high ideals are something every shinobi should try to emulate." Mito and Kushina nodded at this. It was quite true, what Naruto had said. Itachi lives in a world of shadows and darkness, hate and deception. I could see that the life he was living was really taking a toll on him. Itachi understands many things about the village's origins. He understood the truth of the history between me and Madara. He understands much about the truth of the Senju and Uchiha. That is why I knew he would take hope in the fact that I walked the world again, and was sharing his burden. We both love Konoha in the same way, and would give up anything for it." Mito interrupted him. "You did a good thing, Hashirama. I could see that Itachi's depression was lifting every time he mentioned your name." Naruto nodded sadly. "Depression heightens the power of the Mangekyo, it is the natural consequence of those eyes. The one who bears the Mangekyo craves power, and the eyes feed from the depression it creates in its bearer. It is a vicious cycle of hatred, one that drove Madara mad. Itachi's will of fire is strong indeed to have remained so pure for that long," murmured Kushina, amazed. "It is. That is why I wanted Itachi to get the eternal eyes, rather than Sasuke. I know that Sasuke can be great, but he must first heal himself. Itachi's mind however is a lot more advanced and he is ready to be the Uchiha that Konoha needs. I only wait for the day Itachi can stand openly by our side as Konoha's protector along with Sasuke." Naruto's face hardened in resolve. Kushina and Mito stood as well, looking at him solemnly. "We will need to plan our next 3 years. Besides training, I wish to see how all the other nations are faring, and the state of the shinobi world as a whole. We need to talk to Tsunade tomorrow and leave as soon as possible." I can feel that events will come to a head in a few years, and I must be ready for it. The three disappeared towards Naruto's apartment. Sasuke's Sharingan flashed red as he browsed feverishly through the scrolls in the Nakano shrine. He rarely left the place now, as he was seeking insight into the Uchiha clan, and what better way to start than the records of the Uchiha themselves. The moment he had begun to question Itachi's actions was the moment he had begun to question what exactly he knew of his clan. Up to now, he had simply been parroting what his elders had taught him about the Uchiha. He knew nothing about his clan, its true origins, its purpose and philosophies, what the Sharingan truly was. He remembered Itachi sitting in the same archives and poring over scrolls day and night. So he was retracing his brother's path, hoping to find answers. He tossed away a scroll that held records of one of the battles between the Uchiha and Senju, and picked up a scroll bordered in gold thread. Commercial ventures and assets of the Uchiha. Sasuke scoffed, and was about to cast the scroll away when his Sharingan picked up a slight wavering in its fabric. Intrigued, he laid open the scroll in its entirety on his table and observed closely with his Sharingan. There. That slight wavering in the fabric. It was a very subtle Genjutsu, but very strong. Sasuke's Sharingan could only just see through it. I can break through this easily. The Mangekyo Sharingan shone in Sasuke's eyes as he saw through the Genjutsu on the scroll. The illusion broke and the writings reformed into neat new script. He began to read. I am Madara Uchiha. The one who reads this scroll bears the Mangekyo Sharingan. Greetings, true-blooded Uchiha. This is my final word to my traitorous clan as I leave the village, betrayed by all. The ancestor of the Uchiha, one of the founders of Konoha. Sasuke could not contain his eagerness and awe as he read the manuscript his feared ancestor had concealed. We have been sidelined in the hierarchy of Konoha. Curse the weak Uchiha who betrayed me and sided with the Senju. Our once proud clan will be the lapdogs of the Senju. Hashirama is so strong that except me, no one can stand against him. I sometimes wonder, is he the Rikoda Sennin reborn? How can anyone be so strong? He defeated me utterly in our final fight. We tore the earth apart, and the heavens themselves churned in response to the magnitude of our fight. But my eternal Mangekyo Sharingan made no difference to Hashirama, and he defeated me easily. But we struck in accord with each other after Hashirama was even ready to kill himself to prove his trustworthiness. He is the only Senju I admire. But I could see the natural order of the world asserting itself in Konoha. Our clan, which had been beaten in every way by the Senju, was being seen as inferior. Our eyes demanded respect, but the villagers knew that in front of Hashirama's strength, we were nothing. I tried once again to stoke the hatred of our clan, putting forth my arguments. But it meant nothing to those traitorous vermin. My brother's sacrifice was voided by their cowardice. Now, I am leaving Konoha to seek understanding and power. Power to defeat Senju Hashirama at last, and wrest Konoha from the wretched hands of the Senju. But I understand one thing. My will of hatred will live on secretly in the Uchiha clan, just as the Senju will of fire will shine brightly in Konoha. I predict that the Senju will oppress our clan without us even knowing it. Tobirama was always resentful of us. When Hashirama passes, it will be Tobirama with the Hokage title. Then, the Uchiha will wither. I have read our secret tablet with my eternal Mangekyo, and I will share with no one the secrets and understanding I have gained. Hashirama will fall before my eyes, in our next fight. Or sometime later. But he will fall. There is no doubt about it. Sasuke could not take his eyes off the scroll as he finished Madara's monologue. Then his Mangekyo Sharingan picked up even more wavering in Madara's scroll. A second layer of the Genjutsu. If it weren't for these eyes. His Mangekyo shone a menacing red as he broke the second layer. His breathing quickened as he read the title. First meeting under Fugaku, head of the Uchiha clan. He continued reading the scroll, and he could not believe what he was reading. His mind was furiously churning in agitation, and he began sweating. Impossible. How can this be? That's it for part 5. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.